I think I may be the voice of my generation, or at least the voice of a generation. This is Hannah, the character played by Lena Dunham on her cult television series Girls. Unlike Sex and the City, which celebrated the kind of glossy designer aspirationism way beyond the reach of its viewers, Girls represents a far less perfect realism, from grungy apartment to awkward sex. Katie Razzle's report contains some flash photography.
I'm really not hungry, so maybe you can just order me pancakes and turkey bacon. And then I guess if they don't have turkey bacon, I'll have regular bacon. And a milkshake, thank you.
For Girls aficionados, the wait is over. Series 3 hits Britain tonight.
Or you're just like nothing.
You can't break up with me. I wouldn't be eating pizza in front of you if I actually liked you.
For those of you who haven't heard of Lena Dunham, this writer, actor and director is seen by many as speaking truths about being 20-something that haven't been seen on TV before.
Do you think that I think this is the best use of my myriad talents?
It's made her a red carpet star. Last week she was in London with the rest of the cast for the UK premiere of the new series. The show first aired here 15 months ago.
I don't want to freak you out, but I think that I may be the voice of my generation.
This, the very first episode.
Or at least a voice of a generation.
The comedy drama about 4 girls living in Brooklyn, New York, invited inevitable comparisons with Sex and the City. That's wrong. These girls have sex, yes, but it's rarely sexy. They're finding themselves, navigating relationships, friendships and work in the age of austerity.
It's so rare to see any mainstream show which treats women's lives, any women's lives, with anything like accuracy, which portrays young women as fully human personalities with flaws and oddities, people who are, you know, fully rounded human beings.
Honey, I'm home. Family?
It was this film, Tiny Furniture, which Lena Dunham wrote, directed and starred in, that brought her to the attention of the Bridesmaids producer Judd Apatow.
I never see you naked and you always see me naked, when it should actually be the other way around.
Girls followed with its realistic characters, no-holds-barred acting and unglamorous sex scenes. There was criticism for the lack of black roles in the show.
I love how weird you are.
Please don't say love to me.
The second series made amends. The latest controversy involves a backlash over this photo shoot for American Vogue. The American women's blog Jezebel got hold of the original photos and published them, accusing Dunham of betraying feminism. Though in the great scheme of airbrushing, it looks pretty minor. Lena Dunham responded that Vogue isn't the place to look at realistic women, those you find in Girls, with no airbrushing involved.
Katie Razzle. So I spoke to Lena Dunham and I showed her a copy of that Vogue and asked what she made of it.
Yes, that is a picture of me, apparently.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've moved on. I mean, you're not living in that kind of dive with all that stuff all over the floor.
No, and it's funny. I mean, there is stuff all over my apartment, but I am also on the cover of Vogue. So it's a confusing parallel. I am really excited about the Vogue cover. I feel like the magazine really gave a nod to who I am and didn't try to wedge me into any sort of strange glamazon territory that isn't appropriate to me. So,
although you did come here with a hairdresser, a makeup artist, somebody who seemed to be fiddling about with your clothes, I mean, you got it. You've arrived. You're a superstar.
Well, thank you. You know, it's funny. At first I was like, I don't need a hairdresser, I don't need a makeup artist, and then I looked at myself on television and I was like, I'd like to have all the advantages of the people of my profession.
But surely part of what the whole Hannah character is that you play and which you write, is that actually you're kind of utterly normal, down and dirty.
Absolutely. I mean, Hannah's character, who's very close to me in certain ways, less close to me in others, is, I'd say she is in most ways a fairly typical girl. She is maybe at times more self-involved, more ambitious, a little angrier. I think the point of the entire show for me was to have girls on television who looked and felt like girls we would actually know, rather than sort of idealized, modelized depictions.
But you, as Hannah, tell your parents in one episode that you're a kind of voice of a generation, that you're the voice of this generation.
Well, my character did say it when she was on drugs, so I always want to preface it with that.
Well, I mean, a lot of this generation's on drugs, so that's okay. Yeah.
It's true, it's true. You know, Hannah says that sort of, that was a bit to sort of parody people's delusions that, firstly, it was a little bit to parody sort of the Beat Generation idea of somebody who could represent an entire generation, and because the fact is, my generation is so full of it's vast and varied. And so to me, the idea that one person could be representing all the race, class, gender, sexuality distinctions of my generation is totally absurd. But I do hope that the show has something generational to say. You
mentioned race, and you have been criticized for not having a diverse enough life in that flat. Yeah. And with your friends, you did try to introduce somebody black once, had a boyfriend even.
Well, we did have Donald Glover, who's a great actor I'd always wanted to work with, came and did the show. And, you know, those were criticisms that, of course, it's always hard to be criticized, but we really heard those. And what I always say is that I think the conversation about diversity in television is one that needs to happen. And so if we have to take one for the team and that conversation becomes about our show, I'm never going to complain because I'm so happy that we got to help facilitate it.
You've been shooting this in a period of austerity. I mean, it may not necessarily always feel like that, but for a lot of people it is.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of feeling, in a way, we are peering into a middle-class consequence of austerity because everybody's kind of a bit dissatisfied with their jobs. The sex is a bit kind of sometimes unrewarding.
It really is. Well, it's funny. My dad said something to me when I was first working on the show that really inspired the show, which is he said, this is sort of the first generation of Americans who can expect to do worse than their parents did. So I wanted to sort of talk about these girls who are barreling out of college full of hope and met with very little.
I mean, if Sex and the City was kind of brash and kind of up.
Yeah.
This is down and, as I say, dirty.
Well, I like how that sounds in your accent, firstly. But secondly, I think we love Sex and the City. We were inspired by Sex and the City in that it really depicted female friendships and female sexuality in a revolutionary way. But this is about a different version of New York, a less prosperous version of New York, a less glamorous version of New York that has been seen very little on television.
But it suggests it brings everything down, that actually it's a messier life.
Yeah.
The friendships are a bit more contorted.
Absolutely.
And the sex is dull.
Yeah. I mean, I think that...
I mean, you try all sorts of things, but frankly, it doesn't get any more exciting, does it?
No, it's
And
true.
Romance, where is it?
Well,
there is some, but
there
it's
is
hard
some,
to
but I
find.
think right now is a really hard moment something I have noticed, a generational problem I have noticed is that the rise of text messaging, instant messaging, social media as a whole has really decreased our ability to engage romantically and personally. But on the
Is
other
that
hand,
common in this generation?
I do think I've had conversations the same way that social media has sort of killed romance. I do think there's a way that the proliferation of pornography and the ease with which we can see it makes sexuality a little less personal and a little more sort of thoughtlessly dirty. And I try not to throw my hands up and say, oh my God, the internet's terrible, or oh my God, no one should watch porn. It's not about removing these things from our lives. It's about being aware of what they're doing to us.
And there's no danger Vogue's going to kill Hannah off?
Vogue can't kill Hannah off. Hannah's too...
She's not getting above herself?
No, she's too uppity to get killed off by Vogue.
Talking Vogue and sex with Lena Dunham.